Okay, year five. Well, welcome to part 4 of the maze game build in Scratch, and we're going to pick up where we sort of left off in the previous video. First of all, let's just set my backdrop back to level 1 again, and if you remember, we were looking at this code here that we had in that video, in part 3 video, and I've also got this bit where you can down here where you got the colours. So remember that we need a procedure that checks to see if it's touching the walls, and if it's touching the walls then it needs to go back to the start again, and so that's what this bit of code is doing down here. It's saying that if you're touching the walls, go back to the start again. Okay, so in this part 4 video we're going to have a look at how to build or how to make the code for the collectibles, so for the crystals or whatever it is that you're collecting. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a sprite of the object that we want to collect. So I'm going to go into my sprites here and I'm going to choose something for my dog to collect, so some form of collectible. Let's have a think. Okay, so we could use things like keys, or we could use just objects really. So in what else have we got that we could use as our collectibles? We had crystals in the other thing. Let's say that we collect stars. Okay, so in this game the collectible is going to be these stars. Okay, so first of all I need to decide what this star is going to look like. So I can change the size of the star, so I can make it a bit smaller, so they seem a bit big to me. I'm going to go 75. Okay, so I can resize my star. I can change the way the star looks, so I can modify the costumes of the star if I wanted to, and change the way they look. I can make them so they flash on and off or whatever, but I'll just leave them as they are at the moment. Okay, it seems to have gone a bit strange, that star. Let's put it back to 100 and see what it looks like. Oops. Yeah, it looks right at 100. Let's try changing it back to 75. Okay, so it goes a bit fuzzy at 75. Not to worry, that's fine. Okay, so so now I've got this star, I now need to really think about what I can do with it to get it to duplicate itself lots of times, and also scatter itself around the level. Now I could manually do that by duplicating the star, okay, and making lots of them, but actually I can use the code to do it. It's a lot quicker to use the code to do it. So so the first thing we're going to do is get a block, a control block that says when I start as a clone. So this is basically saying that a clone is when you make a complete copy of a sprite. Yeah, so it's a copy of the sprite, an exact copy of it, and it's a clone. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell this clone, when it starts as a clone, I'm going to tell it to move to random locations. Okay, so remember, Scratch is a grid, isn't it? It's a grid system. Okay, so if I go into my stage here, just go into the backdrops, and we're just going to add a backdrop. Let's do a search for it. If I search for XY, then we get the grid. So remember that Scratch is a grid. Okay, just going to leave it on the grid for the moment. So if we look at the code first of all, what I'm telling it to do is I'm saying, okay, I want you to go to a place. Now if I just say go to there, it's already at that location. Okay, if I change these numbers, if I make it, minus 30 and make it 100 for example, then when I click that block, the star jumps. You saw the star jump there from one place to another. So all this is really doing is telling the star where to go, and these are coordinates. Remember, it's the x-axis and the y-axis. X is along and Y is up and down. Okay, and remember that this bit here is minus on the x-axis and plus on the y-axis. Yeah, and this bit here is plus on the x-axis and plus on the y-axis. Okay, and this one is plus on the x-axis and minus on the y-axis, and this one is minus on both axes. Minus, minus. Okay, because it's all to do with where 0 being in the middle. Okay, so you got to remember that everything to the left of the 0 is minus, and everything to the right of the 0 is plus, and everything to the moving up above the 0 is plus, and everything below the 0 is minus. Yeah, so that's how our coordinates work. They're like number lines. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use an operator. We're going to use the random operator to give us random numbers. So it's a bit like, this is a bit like a dice really. It creates random numbers. Yeah, so every time I run it, it creates random numbers. Okay, interestingly, it's, there we go, you can see that it's creating random numbers. It's a bit like a dice. Okay, so I'm going to put that in there, and I'm going to get another one and put that in there. Now if I just leave them as 1 to 10, then there isn't going to be much, it's not going to travel very far. In fact, you can see that it doesn't travel, the star doesn't travel very far on the stage. Okay, so every time I click, it's just moving a very small amount around the centre because I haven't told it to move very far. So this time, if I put in 230, okay, and then I put in minus 230, minus 230, okay, and then in here if I put 170 and then minus 170, we can see that it's going to be much more random with its places. Yeah, so you can see now when I click that code, the star moves to all different places on the stage. Yeah, so you can see how that makes a random places. Okay, so sorry about the pause there. So yeah, so it goes to random places, and what we want to do now is we want to put that code there, so that now what should happen is it creates clones of these stars and places them all over the place. So so the idea is that each time it goes to a new place, it will make a clone of the clone and leave a clone behind. So it's a bit like a breadcrumb. Okay, so so it starts to clone, and we want it to show as well. Okay, so we want it to show, and then we're going to have a loop. So we're going to have a loop in there. So we're going to have a forever loop as well. Okay, so that's really our main bit of code. So this is our main code for the stars. Okay, so there's a couple of other bits of code we need. So we're going to have a code that basically stops the stars appearing into the walls. So we don't want the stars to keep appearing. We want them to appear, but we don't want them to appear in the walls, because then we can't collect them if they appear in the walls. So we're going to have a procedure that does that. Okay, so we're going to make a block, and it says not in the walls. So not in the walls, because we don't want it in the walls. We don't want the stars to appear in the walls, and this procedure will stop that from happening. Okay, and what we really need to think about is all the colours that we've got in our game, haven't we? Because the walls are a certain colour, and so are the and other things will be certain colours that we don't want the walls to go into. So actually I can probably take some of the code from here, okay, and use this code, some of this code here. So what I could do is I could use the thing called the backpack down the bottom here, and I can pick up this code and put it in the backpack. and it's going to add it to my backpack. I've got some other things in my backpack, but this is a bit of code. Okay, now the backpack is really useful. It's for picking up bits of code and moving them between sprites, or finding code in remixed projects and then moving them into your own projects. So it's quite a useful tool. So it's in my backpack, and I'm going to put it out of my backpack and put it on here. And I'm going to attach it to this one. And obviously, if it's when it's so we don't want it we don't want to go into the green walls, and we don't want to go into the blue walls. And if I had another colour, I'd put that in there as well. That could be my exit colour as well, and we got to think about that. So with this backpack code that we brought across, this if, we're going to tell it that that it can't go on the walls, and that it's got to choose a new place to go to. And so really what we can do is we can use this line of code again. So we can use this line of code again here, which is going to say go to a new place. So we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to get rid of those bits, and we're going to put that in there. Okay, so so now we're starting to get a bit of code that says, if you're touching the walls, choose another place to go to again. Okay, so we now need a bit of code that says to make all these clones. So we're going to make all these clones for our crystal, and we're going to do that with a green flag block, because that's what's going to start the game up. Because obviously when you hit the green flag, you remember it runs the setup of the game, the main code setup, and we also want it to put all the stars everywhere as well. So we want to put the stars everywhere. So we're basically going to make lots of clones, really. Okay, and so what we could do then is we could go down to a repeat block here, and then we could go into create clone of myself. Okay, so create clone of myself, and that's kind of going to make lots of clones for us. That's going to make lots of clones for us, and at the moment it's going to make 10 clones for us of the star. So let's just see whether this works. Okay, so yeah, it's working. It's starting to make 10 clones of the star. Now it's not, you can see it's making them in the walls here, because I haven't put the call for this procedure into my forever block. So I'm going to put that in there, so not in the wall. So hopefully it's going to start. Okay, so it's still doing it with one of my clones, but that might be my original star that I set up. That might be the first star that I originally set up. So let's have a look at my code again. I think it is, so if I put that star up there, which is our first clone, then it should, so you notice that that first clone always stays in the same spot, but it's putting the stars nicely around the map now in different places. Okay, so that's good, that's what we want. And really it's a case now of saying, okay, well, if I touch one of these, so if Dot the dog, Dot touches one of these stars, then this star has to delete itself, really. So again, that could be a procedure. Okay, and the procedure could be check touched by Dot. So check touched by Dot. Okay, so it's going to check to see if it's been touched by Dot. Okay, so if Dot touches if Dot touches this star, then the star is going to delete itself, really. So and we can do this with an if, because an if is telling us, saying if this is true, then do this, or if touched by Dot, then hide, or delete. In this case, we're going to delete the clones. Okay, because we want the clones just to be deleted. So if if and then touched by, so touching, we can use the touching. If touching dot, then we're going to delete the clone. So we need to find the code bit that says about deleting clones. Yeah, delete this clone. Okay, so now we should, apart from the first one, which we'll have to try and get that one to disappear as well, but hopefully, okay, so they're not disappearing at the moment. I know why, because I didn't put this is a mistake that I've just made. I didn't put this procedure into my forever loop over here. Okay, so check touched by dot. So that needs to go into our main code loop now. Now, is it going to work for us? Yes. Apart from that first one, they will disappear. So we need to obviously make some code to make that first one disappear as well. So that's the clones if they're touched by dot. So I wonder if we need to hide. Actually, what we could do is hide. We could hide this very first star, because we only need it at the very beginning, don't we, to make its clone, and then we could hide it away. So actually we could get it to hide when the green flag is clicked. Yeah, so if we go into, I'm just sort of thinking about this, so if we go into looks and make this clone, make this hide here, then our very first star that we can't collect will be hidden, but we'll still get all the other stars. Yeah, so we're still getting all the other stars, and then they're disappearing too. So that's good. That's that fixed. Okay, so that's kind of how you, yeah. So that's working. So that's how we make our stars that we can start to collect. And in another video, I'll talk about the variable, how we can make the score, so it counts the number of those stars that we've collected. Okay, I hope that was useful, and thanks for listening to this video.